evening and welcome to Wrokdown. My name is Wendy Stapleton and we're coming to you live from Musicland. Our special guest this evening is a part of one of Australia's most celebrated and awarded groups in our musical history. Recently they celebrated their 50th anniversary. Tonight, to tell us about his new musical, would you please welcome from the Seekers, Mr. Athol Guy.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you.
50 years, can you believe it?
Yeah, oh, gosh,
can you believe it, or has it just gone like that?
I've had 50 years of looking at myself on videos when I was 25, which gets a bit spooky after a while.
Yeah.
No, 50 years, amazing. I mean, who would have dreamed? But it's the music. As any musician knows, and all of us in this business know, you've got to get the songs.
There is no one, I think that I'm correct in saying that there's no one in Australia that has the history that the Seekers do, being together for 50 years.
Well, that's true. I mean, we did have a long holiday in the middle.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the secret to longevity, you know. You know, go away from each other for... we didn't mean to make it 25 years, it just happened because we had that break when, you know, Judith decided she wanted to do some solo work.
Yeah.
And in fairness, the three of us decided it was time for a pretty long holiday because we'd worked non-stop from the time we hit London. And I mean non-stop. We were on national television in England. The second night we'd arrived straight off the boat. I mean, it was an incredible thing.
How was that?
Well, you couldn't manufacture what happened to us. We just walked straight into a scenario. The precursor was through Horry Dargy. Horry had been working at Channel 9 for years, and I started work at Channel 9 when I was 18. My first little bebop group was the Ramblers. You wouldn't remember them, you're far too young.
Well, I do remember Horry Dargy Quintet. Well, am I right, or quartet?
Yeah, Horry Dargy Quintet. Well, when Horry heard that we'd got a trip overseas with the Sitmar line, he said, well, you better send a press kit over to the Grade organisation. What's a press kit? So he told us what to do. And we got a black and white kinnie from in Melbourne tonight because right through from my first bebop group, the Ramblers and the Escorts, we were always doing in Melbourne Tonight and the Channel 7 shows. And we got a beautiful black and white kinnie from in Melbourne Tonight.
So that's a real reel-to-reel tape that you could send overseas?
That's a real, almost sort of, you know, hand reel the thing through. It was amazing. And that went off with the W&G album that we'd recorded. Ron Shooter, the godfather of the recording industry in Australia, had us come in one day and offered us the chance to do an album off the back of some tapes that he'd heard of us just scatting away in the studios one day. And the kit with some photographs had gone to the Grade organisation, and we didn't know how huge the Grade organisation were. I mean, they were basically the biggest entertainment agency in Europe. And somebody there looked at it and went, yeah, they must have liked it.
We can do something with this.
Well, we were on the boat for 6 weeks having a hell of a time, not only playing folk music, but rock and roll. We had to play rock and roll every night for 3 hours.
I'm sure you did on the boat.
Well, we would have even if we hadn't been asked. I mean, it was just such a fantastic gig going over there. Anyway, I got a telegram 2 days before we arrived at Southampton saying, welcome to the UK. You're on Today Tonight program with Cliff Mitchellmore in 3 days' time.
Did you have a single out at the time?
Nothing. We had nothing out.
So how...
The agency just liked us, thought we'd look good on TV, and honestly, that was it. And
how fast did it all happen for you? Once you arrived there, obviously you've got to try and get some product on air.
Well, the bottom line was, with the help of the Grade organisation, we went through that. In the second week, we were playing in Blackpool with Freddie and the Dreamers, and on the Sunday night of that week, we had to step in to replace someone who couldn't do the big charity show at the Opera House, and we met Dusty Springfield. So talk about one thing leading to another. And Keith, who was a mad 12-string aficionado, didn't have a 12-string, knew that Tom Springfield had a 12-string.
And of course Tom Springfield was an amazing songwriter.
Well, Tom eventually, of course, about 3 or 4 months later, came to us with a handwritten set of lyrics for a little song called I'll Never Find Another You. So this series of connections were just, it's quite unbelievable what happened to us. But equally, like we did the week with Freddie and the Dreamers, we came back, then we auditioned for the Palladium in the 4th week. And we did the Sunday night. Now, most artists in the UK must have looked at us and said, these usurpers from down under, you know, they get off a boat and in like 3 or 4 weeks, we're starting to do almost every major TV show.
But you had a unique sound.
Well, we clearly did. But look, the theory is, if you can find the pigeonhole for your music with that edge of difference, you grab it as quickly as you can. Now, my theory is that, and this is where the relationship with the Springfields works for me again, they just disbanded about a year beforehand. And
Dusty had gone solo?
Dusty had gone solo, and Tom and Tim and then Mike Hurst, they'd all gone their own separate ways, and Tom had started writing. Well, when we arrived, I reckon it was that pigeonhole that we slotted straight into, and I reckon that's why the people in the great organisation went, we can pop them in there. And
right into where Dusty left off.
Yeah, exactly. And we did, in the first 6 months that we were in England, we virtually did a national television program every week. We did 2 series of a show called Call In on Carol with a guy called Ronnie Carroll, Irish singer who had a couple of hits, and folk programs up in Edinburgh. I mean, you couldn't get us off television. It was amazing. And
obviously, as I said in the intro, you've just celebrated 50 years of being together, and as you said, there was a break in the middle.
Big holiday.
But you are, as I can believe it, one of the only groups in the world that are still performing with the original members.
Yeah.
For 50 years.
Well, we can't find another one. It's amazing.
I can't find another one.
No. Well,
tell us a little bit. Actually, what we're here to talk about tonight really is the musical Athol Guy, The Seeker's Story.
The Seeker's Story. It was devised as a very simple storyline about the group's development, the genesis of the group that came out of my little bebop groups, along with then Keith, who joined with me when we formed the Escorts. The original Seekers were 4 boys, because the Escorts, you couldn't call a group that these days, could you? But I mean, we were there.
Good.
Well, we morphed then into a little folky outfit and a gospel-y outfit called the Seekers. And we got the name by tossing a coin one day. We wanted a folky name, and it was either going to be the Searchers or the Seekers. Fortunately,
the Searchers was already taken, wasn't it?
Well, we didn't know that. Fortunately, it came down Seekers, so another stroke of luck. We had a terrific lead singer by the name of Ken Ray. He had a beautiful tenor voice, and it was a great coat hanger for Keith and Bruce and I to hang the harmonies off. And Keith is a great arranger of harmonics, and as all our musical friends know, it's got to be in your ears. And you're always, most groups can do harmonies, but we wanted a blend. We wanted it to chime. That was our ambition, even when we had just the 4 boys. And with Ken's voice so strong, it just gave us that wonderful blend. Ken went off to get married and couldn't come out at night.
He wasn't,
to see what's
he wasn't allowed out.
God bless him. And we decided.
Is Ken sorry?
Ken?
Is Ken sorry?
No. We've met him quite a few times. No, I don't. Look, no, I don't. I think he's always been thrilled for the success that we had. He's a dear boy, and he's remained a lifelong friend. But I set out to go and listen to the 2 jazz singers in Melbourne at the time. It was Judy Jarks and Judy Durham. It wasn't Judith then, it was Judy Durham. And I'd met Judith, I'm calling her Judith now, met her sister at Channel 9. And I said to Beverly, her sister, we're looking for a girl to come and sing with us, with myself and Keith and Bruce. I want to go and hear your sister sing. Where's she singing? She was singing with Frank Trainer's jazz preachers. I said, I'll go and see her one night. Anyway, I was working with an advertising agency, and I hadn't had a chance to go and see Judith sing. This day, I'm sitting in my office, and this little head poked itself around the corner of my office and said, "Oh, you're Athol Guy." No,
Hi, I'm Judy.
She said, "I'm Judy Durham."
Did she really sound like that?
You're supposed to come and hear me sing.
You didn't go.
Sorry, Judith. That's a bad impersonation. And I said, well, no, look, I'm sorry, I haven't had time. Why don't you come and sing with us tonight at the Treble Clef? And she said, oh, that'd be nice. Someone come and pick me up. So Bruce got the job because he lived not far from where she lived in Melbourne. Picked her up, brought her to the Treble Clef, owned by Tommy Davidson, another one of our great musicians of the time. And we just sat around and we said, oh, that's great, and introduced Judy to the boys. So, look, Judy doesn't sing the stuff we sing, but we'll amalgamate, like, what would you like to sing first? So she just opened her mouth and started singing When the Stars Begin to Fall. And we just joined in with the harmonies.
And that was it?
And nothing's changed.
We're going to take a short break. This is the beginning of the Seekers as we know them. We'll be back soon. Welcome back to Wrokdown. My special guest tonight, Athol Guy from The Seekers. We're talking about your new musical. It's called Athol Guy, The Seeker's Story, correct?
It is. That's what it's called. I was encouraged to start doing some memoirs. Whether it'll turn into a book or not, I'm not sure. And an agent friend of mine who'd seen myself and Buddy, Jenny Blake and Rod Hulls and
Where
Michael
did Jenny
Cristiano.
and Rod?
Well, I met Jenny and Rod about 12 years ago, and they'd been playing as a duo around the world, you know, in the great hotels and cabaret rooms. And then Bud came and joined us one stage of the game, singing better than ever, with all his great hits and everything, but you know, just singing better than ever. And we all suddenly got that blend.
So
it was like the Seekers blend, and it was. We thought, well, this
was
would be
that the
nice.
catalyst for thinking about the idea of like?
Well,
because honestly, after 50 years, so many things have been written about the Seekers.
Yeah.
It's been so documented, and there are 4 of you. Everyone has their own tale to tell.
well, we're the north, south, east, and west as far as you know our
That's
personalities
correct.
and everything else.
Yeah.
But you know,
But that's what made it.
when we pull it together, it's
That's
fantastic.
what made it
you know.
work.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Now
more than
it's
family.
your time to tell your story
well,
of the
You're right.
Seekers.
Well, there is a lot of stuff documented, and I've found through the shows that we've already done, people haven't heard any of these stories that we're able to tell on stage, or to see any of the lovely little short video clips that I've got from the group's history, going right back, dare I say, to the Ramblers and the Escorts, right through to the early Seekers, and we've got it all in black and white. And it's just a fantastic history of how we evolved the sound, how we created the Seekers sound off the back of Ken Ray's beautiful tenor to go to Judith, and when we got Judith in the group, because you know as well as anybody else, singing solo is a damn sight
And going
different.
from a guy to
Different,
a girl,
yeah.
It's a totally different dynamic.
It is, and it's different for the solo singer too, and she'd been used to singing solo, but she just took the vibrato out and did that. She does those beautiful coat hanger notes for us. And when we started to get some songs, and as you know commercially, your middle 8 has got to have the hook in it. And with a song like I'll Never Find Another You, the harmonies go soaring.
It's
It's a long, long journey. Yeah, beautiful. I can tell you some stories about that with Andre.
I was going to try and do it, but it's a bit high for me.
I'm digressing, but the story takes us right from my early days as a choir boy, with a little black and white of me singing Ave Maria, evolving through my bebop groups, the Seekers sound, how we started to create the sound we wanted, what happened to us after opening our mouths for the first time at the Treble Clef, to the trip to England. It's got everything in it. It's got the time we played with the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, the Who.
Tell us a bit about that.
Well, that was the New Musical Express Poll Winners Award concert in 1965, and we just had a huge hit with I'll Never Find Another You. And internationally, we were named, it was like an Academy Award in the music business in those days, we were named the top best new group. And we played on the concert with the Beatles and the Stones, Cilla Black, Dusty Springfield. 30
Did you meet them all backstage?
30 acts. No. No, we didn't. We met a lot of them, like passing in the corridor. Anyway, John Lennon walked past our dressing room while we were doing the rehearsals during the day. We didn't see him. Our manager was standing outside the dressing room. And John walked over with a very cheeky grin on his face, apparently. He looked up at our manager and he said, "They're not a bad little band, you know, but they're all here to see us."
Just reminding you.
Well, we got our own back because 3 weeks later...
you knocked him off the charts.
Well, we knocked Ticket to Ride off the top of the charts with A World of Our Own, so, you know, justice prevailed.
I really hate referring to notes, but I had to do this today because it's too much to remember. But if we're talking about knocking people off the charts, you were the first group ever to reach #1 in the UK with 3 singles in a row.
Yep.
Please.
Thanks to Tom.
The first Australian group to have a #1 in America with Georgy Girl, correct?
Yep.
The first Australian group to ever have a #1 in the UK with I Know I'll Never Find Another You.
Yeah.
And look, the awards just keep going on and on and on. I won't go on.
No, thank you. Well, look, we had the songs, as I said before.
So you got John back big time.
Yeah, we did, but there was no animosity. I mean, it was just one of those funny, quirky things, and we loved them, like as everybody else did, because of what they were doing. I mean, they were fantastic,
and
still love them all.
also the music at the time, and I know this from the history of Dusty as well. It was right at a time where the folk music was sort of like almost not disappearing, but this new music was coming in. And so you actually got right in there just before it sort of totally was wiped.
Yeah, perfect timing. We were there right at that transition. And the thing about I'll Never Find Another You, that helped us cross the Rubicon, because, you know, without Tom's production capacity as well as his songwriting capacity, he knew the sound that he wanted to get out of us. Because we'd done the album for W&G, which is lovely. There's some terrific tracks on it. And we'd actually done 2 albums for the World Record Club when we arrived in England, which is another story again, through a friend of mine who was working for them. So we'd had a lot of recording experience in London before we got to the stage of getting a commercial opportunity. And that song was the crossover for us. But to find ourselves in that position, although the funny thing was, America just kept driving our office nuts to get us to America, but we were virtually resident in England. And in England at the time, and I choose my words very carefully here, because we were with the strongest agency virtually in Europe, they also had a stranglehold on the venues, and they were very quick to push you 12 months ahead into their next summer season, which used to go for like 15 to 20 weeks, or the next pantomime, you see. So you were stuck in that traditional, starting to fade out English showbiz scene, because you didn't do concerts. As big as we were, we never got to do a full concert on our own in England at that stage of the game. I mean, we did a season at the Palladium, headlined at the Palladium, and we did 25 minutes. And we were on with Tanya the Adorable Elephant, the Nitwits.
It wasn't at Bognor Regis, was it? Did you ever do Bognor Regis?
We did Bognor Regis. we did them all. Well, I tell you, the first club, the clubs, you know, the proliferation of clubs in England, they were amazing clubs. And one of the first clubs that we did was the 69 Club in Newcastle. I say no more.
No,
again, today you couldn't call a club the 69. Well, you might, but you know. But people were fantastic. So I must say, all the way along the line, we had nothing but encouragement. Absolutely, because it'd be very easy to get disillusioned in that
and a hard slog as well.
Yeah, but good fun.
Speaking of encouragement, we have a little segment that we do on the show, Athol. It's Mick Pealing, our gorgeous Mick Pealing.
Yeah, Mick.
From the Ideals, and we have a little segment where Mick suggests to people that they check out these new CDs, new releases. So here we go. This is let's have a look at Mick's picks.
Love it.
Hi Wrokdowners, welcome back to Mick's Picks. And my pick for today is the fabulous John Swan. It's my own personalised copy of his brand new album, One Day at a Time. Now, I've known John for a long time, since we used to bump into each other around the South Australian music circuit back in the early 70s. And he's always been a quality act. I forget how many CDs he's had out now, probably a good dozen or so. But this one has reached a new high standard, folks. He's written all the songs on this one, and I love it. There's some fabulous ballads on it. Summertime, Sweet Marie, and a really fantastic hard rocker called No One Takes Me Serious. It's great. He's singing fantastic. I definitely recommend this one to all of you out there. Swanee, One Day at a Time.
Wrokdown.
Welcome back to Wrokdown, my gorgeous girl, Soozie Pinder, out and about. And you have been out and about and you've been stonkered.
I have been stonkered. I'm so tired.
I love that word, stonkered. That means you've been working really hard.
I did. I danced too much on this stage on Saturday night with my mates and out at live music. My kneecaps are buggered though. And I still can't walk in these buggers.
Well, show us.
That's the bling.
And you can see why. See, I'm a little bit jealous that you would get to wear all this bling.
Yeah, but I can't walk in them. I look like Alf when I walk, you know. Conk, conk, conk.
So where you been, Suze?
I've been all over town. I went and saw Joe Camilleri at Rockberry Jam, which is the gig that the local footy club put on, and it was
Where
amazing. Was that? At Wandon Reserve, so the little local Wandon East Footy Club, I think, or something. And they put this gig on, and a monster stage, Joe Camilleri, Daryl Braithwaite, John Stevens.
Huge show.
Oh.
Huge show. Was it a great turn-up?
Fantastic. Really good family dates. The second year they've put it on. They are amazing. Just the local committee, they hocked their houses to put the gig on. And, you know, a lot of people turned up. It was fabulous. Beautiful day, beautiful sunshiny day. Old school win. You know, like when there's a big footy oval and you can bring your towels and things and sit down. And, it was just magnificent. So Joe Camilleri, I saw him recently at some other tour and I thought he was awesome, but he was on fire. He's absolutely on fire. I've got a bit of an interview if you wanted to have a look at it.
I would love to have a look at it.
Have a look at that?
Let's have a look at Joe.
All right, he's up here. Have a look. Now listen, were you one of, is it 10 kids? Or?
Yeah, one of 10. I'm the third oldest of 10. So that's probably why I am a musician, you know, because I didn't get enough. Oh, Mummy, I'm the best. Daddy, I'm the best.
You had to do something to get their attention.
Yeah, all of that nonsense.
How come Mum called you Zep?
It was just what my dad's name was, Joseph. So she's called Dad Zep. So I ended up being, of course, that because I had his name. And Ross Wilson found it. You know, he just said what we were doing my very first single, Run Rudolph Run, and he said we need a name. And we spent about an hour and a half working what the name is going to be. And I just said, oh, what about Joe Zep? You know, and he says, that's great, you know, in his kind of way. And I said, well, it doesn't sound good. And I said, well, what about Jojo Zep? And it stuck, you know. I thought it was only one single and it was going to be, that would be it, you know. But, and that's what happens. One single leads to something else and something else. And next thing you know, you've made 47 albums. It just happened for me. I was just a music fan, you know. I really just loved the radio, loved the Animals, loved the Stones, loved the Kinks, loved the Searchers, the Beatles, loved all that. And then discovered all the things that came before it. And by discovering that, you start realising you got Louis Armstrong, you've got John Coltrane, you've got, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, you've got Chuck Berry, you've got all these wonderful artists, and then you go back further and you've got all this other style, and then you meet someone and they say, well, what about this country music, this country soul music and this soul music? I love the Four Tops.
Beautiful music.
I love the Four Tops, and I just, love the harmonies, love the songs, love the melodies, and pop songs, but they were really great pop songs. And then then you got Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye. It was just a plethora of and it just coming at you, and everything was slow then. It took ages to get a record in Australia. So it took forever. So and when it happened, boy, you wore it out.
Last year on my radio show, I was playing, I think, is it Money Talks?
Money Talkin'.
Yeah, Money Talkin'. That's a bloody good song.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I thought it was pretty neat. And it was of Crooked Little Thoughts.
Crooked Little, Money does talk. Someone's coming in to give us trouble.
Yeah, they just give us troubles, yeah. It was off this album, a triple album called Crooked Little Thoughts. Yeah. And it was, it was an art book. Had a 75-page art book with 3 CDs in it, and all new songs, and so it was, and every song had a painting. So it was, it was a 2-year project for me, but it was something I needed to go through, and I write a lot of songs, so normally I like to put them all on, And I thought, oh, well, this would be quite a nice thing. No one's ever done this. No one's ever done, to my knowledge, a painting. So I got a painter to paint every
I thought you were going to tell me you were a bit of a Picasso then.
Well,
eh?
I like painting, but not on that level, you know. So I might have got away with one or two, but not 24 paintings.
So what's new musically? Is there something else you got in the pipe works?
Well, I've got Certified Blue out now,
Yep.
and next month I've got 2 vinyl albums, which is they're both called Endless Sleep, Chapter 46 and 47.
Vinyl.
Vinyl, yeah. You
I
can
love
only you can only buy it in vinyl. You can't, but you get a CD with the vinyl, but you can't buy the CD, and it's not on Spotify, and you can't download it.
Yes.
And there's 20 songs of my favourite artists, or some of my favourite artists, and I've chosen to do this, and it ranges from Blind Willie McTell to Warren Zevon, John Coltrane, to Gil Scott-Heron, and many others,
Look, thank you so much for your
Thank you,
time.
darling.
You're a wonderful musician,
Oh,
and
thank you.
it's
That's beautiful.
so honoured to have you on
Thank
our
you
show.
so much.
Yeah, Wrokdown, over and out. See you guys.
Well, that was Joe Camilleri, and what a great guy. I've worked with Joe quite a bit.
He is remarkable. You know, he picks up the sax, he plays the sax, he picks up the guitar, he plays the guitar. He grooves, he gives it everything, and what a show. What a funny bugger.
And he's a lovely guy. I've known him for a very long time. I met him in the late 70s. I actually did backing vocals on Screaming Jets.
You were 8 then.
I don't care. Honestly,
Look how gorgeous.
all you've got to do is Google me, and you know where you are. It doesn't matter. The honour is being able to work on people's albums.
Yeah.
I worked on Penny Dyer and myself, Linda George. We worked on Screaming Targets, I should say. It wasn't Screaming Jets. And then we worked on the following album, which was Hats Off. And amazing, because Joe had this fantastic thing where he sort of went through like periods of like this was reggae, this was a bit more something else, but it was always interesting. And doing backing vocals on his albums was always an extreme pleasure, because he always came up with totally different experiences for singers to have to experience.
I want to say just that Janet in the audience gave me bling, and yours is in her bag. We've got a wonderful audience, and thank you all that you come to Wrokdown. You make the show, but check that out. You've got one over there coming.
Have I?
Yeah.
Can't
Pretty good
wait.
bling, isn't
I
it?
can't
eh?
wait.
Yeah. We've
I'm
got
going
so
to
many
stick
fun
mine
things.
right on my head here.
Do you see the pink Cadillac and the drive on the way into?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool audience we've got, eh?
We have got a very cool audience.
Yeah.
We have a very cool Miss Soozie Pinder.
Thank you, darling. Thank you.
We're going to take a short break. Be back soon.
Thanks, Lord.
Welcome back to Wrokdown. I'm here with Athol Guy. We're talking about the new musical, Athol Guy, The Seeker Story. And of course...
Am I here?
You will be
You're
in a
our
minute.
star. You're about to be introduced.
I was just
Shut
about
up.
to say that
Sitting here with Athol Guy.
Athol Guy's best buddy...
And the other half. I sing harmonies for him. In the show, too.
I was just about to say Athol Guy's best buddy, get the pun,
You get that? Oh, it was very good, Wendy. Lovely.
is also a pop legend
He
from the
is.
60s in his own right. Would you please welcome Mr. Buddy England?
Yo!
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Yeah, bud.
Buddy, of course, you were part of the Seekers in
Yeah.
the later days after Judith left and reformed.
Yep.
Let's talk about that a little bit, how this all came about.
Well, basically, Athol and I have been friends for a very, very long time, and got round to about 74, 75, and EMI put a bit of pressure on Athol and said we want the group back together again, and Judith didn't want to do it. So Athol, at that time, I think we were in Parliament.
I was a member of Parliament, yeah.
And asked me to go out and find a girl, and I spoke with you, and
you weren't available.
You weren't available, so not even for the group either.
No.
No, it was all above board.
Twice.
And I went to a place called Waltzing Matilda, was it called?
Yes, Waltzing Matilda.
Waltzing Matilda.
Yeah.
And saw a girl called Louisa Wisling, who was from Holland, and she was up there working with a band. And I called Athol and said, let's go and have another look at this girl. And I think she's the total opposite from Judith, which might work, blonde and very... what would you say?
Oh, quite vivacious, but gorgeous.
Yeah.
Had a lovely aura about her.
I didn't
really
want to say
gorgeous.
that, I'll get into trouble.
Yeah.
But anyway, and she could sing very well.
Could she sing?
So bottom line was that I then worked with Athol, and I think Keith was still living in England.
He was, yeah.
And worked on looking for material. And then when we decided upon the material, when the guys decided upon the material, then I worked on all the vocal arrangements and scored them all and what have you. And then we all went to England to record.
Yeah.
Can I go back? Because
Can we give you the result of that? No, I'm going to give Bud the right
Can I
credit
go
here.
back?
No, hang on a minute.
No, okay.
Out of that came Sparrow's Song, a #1 hit,
Yes.
and
I was
2
about
gold
to say
albums.
it
Well,
was
I'm sorry, were you about to say
It was
that?
a beautiful, beautiful album
Yeah.
that you produced with Louisa.
Louisa?
And it was gold albums, 2 gold
We did
albums.
two gold albums.
I think the first one went
In
platinum,
actual
actually.
fact, I think
Platinum,
that over the history of the Seekers, you've sold in excess of 50 million,
60 million now.
60 million.
They did a recount. We
You couldn't loan me $1 or $2, could you?
Well, unfortunately, the royalties in those days ended up in the bottom drawer of the EMI Managing
agents.
Director's office.
But, Buddy, just quickly going back, of course, before you joined the Seekers, you had your own amazing career as Buddy England in Australia and in England.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wondered, I wondered how you guys, I think you guys actually met in Australia as separate entities. Buddy England, Athol Guy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you met, because I think that was way back in the early formative days of, you were a big pop star, and still, massive
It's
pop
not very
star.
clear, but I can remember...
68.
60... Oh, earlier than that, I think it was.
Might have been earlier than that.
Yeah, at Abbey Road.
Bud was in England.
And I was in Studio 2, and I think the guys were recording in Studio 3 or working towards recording some extra stuff, and it was about the same time that they folded.
That's right. Yeah, it was 60. Yeah, like 68.
Yeah.
And we were doing some last tracks, and Bud had hit England, and oh, thank you. I thought I didn't know that happened on the show. It's lovely. Thank you, Wendy. Do it again. It's gorgeous.
I thought it was dandruff.
Best offer I've had all month.
You don't
Lovely.
get dandruff, do you?
No, I don't. Anyway,
But you guys had been, you had all known each other firmly from Australia.
A long time.
Oh gosh, yeah. Look, by the time we hit England,
It's over 40 years. I think.
Bud and the gang were buzzing out here with those great TV shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bud had like 3 or 4 or 5 big hits, as many hits as anybody else in that time. And we were, in England doing our thing, and suddenly finding out what was happening in Australia, because we found that out because we came back every year, and we went, good grief, this is a different country to what we left. And I think, and one of the things was, a lot of people went, if the Seekers can do it, we can, which was a great thing. Gave them all courage to go, well, not just home here in Oz.
No.
And Bud came to England, which was great. And,
But Bud was actually born in England.
yeah.
Yeah, I was. But when I went back, it was a kind of a small disaster, really, because I had the choice of going to the States, because Moving Man had gone into the cash box at 35, and I had the choice of going to the States or England. And what happened was Dion from Dion and the Belmonts covered Moving Man in America, and they dumped mine and played his. And so I went to England and signed up with Brian Somerville and he was the boyfriend of the Beatles' manager.
Epstein, yeah.
Epstein,
A nice
Brian
bunch,
Epstein.
a nice
And
bunch of rogues.
a nice bunch of rogues. But anyway, the
I
whole
just said it.
yeah. But we discussed this.
Yeah, don't go there.
Don't go there. And so in the end result
It's for
was
his memoirs.
I for the want of a better term, pulled the plug because I came back to England. I came back to Australia, and I couldn't work for 5 years because I wrecked a restaurant by pulling the tablecloth off the table.
And having said that, we're going to a commercial break. No, we're not going. We're actually going to have a great look now at a clip from a girl called Grace Marino. This is Survive.
I'll go first for this time, 'cause I need to tell you what's on my mind. Does it hurt? Do you hurt? Are you fine? Feel the need to succeed in this life that continues to challenge me. Do you learn? Does it burn in your mind? Do you want to make our love survive? Do you want to make our love survive? Next to you, I am true, holding on to what you say and do. But I heard from the pain I have inside. Won't you try to make our love survive?
Wrokdown.
Welcome back to Wrokdown. I'm with Athol Guy and Buddy England, and we're talking about
Naughty
Athol
things.
Guy. No, not naughty. We're talking about Athol Guy, the Seeker story. Guys, you have written a show.
Yes.
We're on tour. You're on tour.
We are. We've had a fantastic time. We geared it for the regional theatres around Australia. And as everybody here knows, we have the most fantastic circuit of regional theatres. And, you know, we've done a lot of 50th concerts in the capital cities, but we've never been able to take the shows out to regional Australia. And Bud and I have talked about this for quite a while because...
Can I just interject?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people aren't aware of the fact that Buddy joined the Seekers. After your own solo career, you actually joined the Seekers. So this is where it all ties in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It was a
that
lovely evolutionary, you know, story to it all.
Well, after I came back from England after we recorded the album, the guys stayed over there to release it because they were going to release it pretty quickly. And then the guys came back a couple of months later and they did a couple of shows here. And then Athol knocked on the door and said, Bruce left the band and what are you doing on Monday? And I think it was a Thursday or something. And I said, why? He said, because you're joining the group and we're going to Hong Kong and him taking it. So
Well, we didn't expect that success. We did it for a bit of fun, like within a couple of weeks, and I was still a member of Parliament. And I'm going, how am I going to handle this?
I'm
But
going to have to do this again.
What have I done?
I just like touching you.
Thank you. Oh. Did we get that on video? That's like, I'll show my daughter that. She'll love that. So, Bruce, because Bruce had other commitments, Keith, fortunately, because he was still living in England.
Yeah,
So we had to get, because you get offered these gigs, and I said, we've got this gig in Hong Kong at the Mandarin Hotel. Like, we're all busy working, doing other things. We had those 2 gold records, the #1 single, and we're pretending we're not a group. You know, we're not a performing group. So I had to ring Bud and say, as he's just mentioned, we're getting on a plane, we're going to Hong Kong, you're now in the Seekers for the season. What is it, the captain's room at the Mandarin Hotel in Hong Kong. Well, I have to tell you, if you've ever done that, it was one of the life's experiences. The harbour room, sorry.
Yeah,
the harbour room, the captain's table, the harbour room. And it was the most fantastic couple of weeks you could ever have as a part-time band.
Almost sort of the old-fashioned nightclub thing that Sinatra and the guys used to do with 300 in the audience, you know. And it was intimate and it was just, it was great fun, wasn't it?
Well, it was fabulous. And of course, the phone kept ringing. People, you know, I think, you know, the Seekers per se became, at the time, the big event group. I'd get the phone call saying, could we have the Seekers for Expo X, or could we have the Seekers? And I go, no, because the rest of the guys are overseas. I don't know where they are, and Judith's doing her own thing. But every now and then, we'd say yes because the gig sounded great fun. We did Singapore. We did a week in Singapore, where you nearly had us thrown out of the country. But that doesn't matter. We won't tell the story.
Why?
Somebody yelled out from the audience, sing Puff the Magic Dragon, and it went on and on and on for about 10 minutes.
Oh, and you did
after each
Puff
song.
the Magic Dragon.
And so I turned around and I said, and Lee Kuan Yew too.
Didn't go down very well.
What does that mean?
That doesn't. We won't explain it.
Well, Lee Kuan Yew was the president.
I thought you were doing more like Puff the Magic Dragon, which in
Anyway, we
Singapore
had
would
to,
be enough to get you arrested anyway.
Well, it was. That was one of
that
that.
was
That was
and
one of the points.
apologise to the secret police and
Look,
the
it was,
audience.
it was
Then they
instinctive.
let us back on again.
So anyway, cut to the chase. You guys have been friends forever.
Long time. Well, it is
Forever.
forever. Yeah, it is forever.
He's your buddy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. We've done a
You
stack of stuff.
decided when? Last year to finally write a musical.
Mini musical, yeah, a little mini musical. More like a rock-umentary with a W up front, if I can borrow that.
I like that.
Yeah.
You like that? A rock-umentary. Because the dialogue is not structured, you know, in a majorly disciplined fashion, because it's like we want to be in our audience's lounge room. In the regional theatres, you can do that. It's fantastic. And then I said to Bud, well, you've got to come in as our special guest artist, you know, and we reflect back on Bud's career as well as the time he joined in with the Seekers, because he's part of the story, you know, part of that 20-year period when the original group wasn't together. And suddenly, when we all sat down and talked about it with Jenny and Rod and Michael Cristiano, we went,
Can I just say
This could work.
Michael Cristiano, I've got to do this for Michael because my husband Paul and I have been working with Michael for about 20 years.
He's a genius.
And I just have to do this. Mickey!
Hello,
He's going to kill me for that,
No,
but
well-
one of the most talented musicians in Australia.
He is.
And he's your musical
is.
director?
He
Is
is,
that
and
correct?
he's the Seekers producer as well, which is great. So, and Michael sings and plays beautifully, as you well know. So between the 5 of us, because we do a lot of local gigs and we have a lot of fun, you know, doing local gigs. We know how to sing together, and we get that lovely group blend that I mentioned a long time ago on the show, where it chimes.
And you've
it's
got
instinctive.
gorgeous,
We don't have to think about Jenny Blake,
Jenny
beautiful singer, yeah.
and Rod.
Rod, who plays a beautiful keyboard, you know, and Rod's into the
Michael,
harmony
and of
too.
course,
Michael.
as we said before, Bud's was already had his own
Absolutely. Well, there are
fabulous career as a pop legend.
2 specific spots in the show for Bud, and the story is it's just evolutionary, virtually right up to today. The Seekers having finished their 50th, the 5 of us still hanging out together, playing all sorts of music together, but specifically for this show.
So we're going to leave you tonight with a little something from Bud and the boys. Athol. Good night from Wrokdown. Thank you very much.
Hello.
There's a song that I wrote for Tony Pantano, and I saw him on television show. I think Athol, in fact, was a judge on the New Faces, and Tony Pantano won it. And he sang, I think it was It's Not Unusual, Tom Jones sing, and I thought, I can write a song for this guy, and I phoned him up, and I said, have you got a recording contract? And he said, no. I said, well, I've got a song which might get you one. And that was sort of in the Thursday or Friday or something like that. So I said to him, why don't you drop over on Monday and I'll pay you the song. And I wrote it on the Saturday because I didn't know what it was at that time. But anyway, this is the way I wrote the song. So I've recorded it myself. And so this is it. Every time you touch me, I break up. Every time you kiss me, my heart skips a beat. Every time we quarrel, we make up. Everything you do leaves me weak. I can't believe it's true. I fell in love with you like a dream. You came into my life and took my heart. My heartstrings are playing a melody, just like a symphony. And every time you touch me, I break up. Every time you kiss me, my heart skips a beat. Every time we quarrel, we make up. Everything you do leaves me weak. Every time you touch me, I break up. Every time you kiss me, my heart skips a beat. Every time we quarrel, we make up. Everything you do leaves me weak. Every time you touch me, I break up. Everything you do leaves me. Thank you. Thank you very much.